So Dealer's Choice is the name of the application that we work through. It's created by myself, John Hawley, and Christopher. Just to kind of give you like a little bit of a prologue as to why we decided to choose, this field to get into in this application. We started this project with one goal in mind: provide a platform for users to buy, sell, research, and trade in new or used vehicles. Just kind of looking out at the market, we saw like some points where we believe we could make a superior application, just based off some weaknesses that other ones had, comparing, etc. We wanted to keep usability in mind. We aim to provide a simple yet effective application to secure satisfaction from our users. On our application, a user can buy a new vehicle, compare prices on used vehicles, apply for a loan, research for the best possible fit for their personal lifestyle, all while avoiding the pesky car salesman of old, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with. Our mission statement, I'm just going to summarize here because it's really long. I kind of just went over a bunch of it in the prologue. Just due to COVID-19 and all the adjustments that we've had to make over the course of the last year, traditional business practices, such as going to a dealership, have changed. A lot of them have now migrated more to a remote or online platform. So that's what we aim to take advantage of here. The importance of having a virtual platform to conduct these transactions has never been more important. That's why we decided to create an iOS and Android app, which would allow our customers to complete the entire buying process from the safety and familiarity of their own home. As stated before, we have an extensive database of these vehicles, from used, new, trade-in values, research opportunities, etc. In this database, the customers will be able to see pictures, reviews, ratings, recommendations to help them find the best possible vehicle for their lifestyle. And we'll go further into the process, which led us to our final product. So our typical users, I wouldn't say there's like a specific demographic, age group, region, etc. It's anyone looking to buy a new vehicle. And this can be anyone from someone getting their first car to, they're getting one in retirement. We tried to aim to make sure that our application was easy to use for people of all ages. Here's kind of a breakdown of our typical context of use. Just kind of to reiterate: consumers looking to buy a new or used vehicle, consumers looking to trade in their vehicle, consumers looking to compare vehicle pricing and options, anyone looking to research vehicle models. They can also get immediate cash estimates, and we also have working with various banks so they can get their loan calculation to determine if they want to have their loan set up on a based off their monthly payment, down payment, etc., which we will go into further later. And for this point, I'll hand it over to Chris.
So when we were doing the application and figuring out what was important to have information based on to design the app, we needed to know what the users were looking for when they were purchasing vehicles, when they were looking, are they looking for new or used, and other features that they found to be useful, or other features that they wanted added on when they were testing the application. Same thing goes with the vehicle type, based off of where you live, who you are, depends on what you're going to buy. So someone, like me, 23, probably looking more towards a sports car, but someone who's maybe up in more of a wintry climate might be looking for a SUV with four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So the demographic really plays a huge factor. And then if they're trading in the vehicle, is also important. And so our hypothesis, the Dealer's Choice app, is going to give the users the knowledge to make an educated decision based on what they're buying. They're going to give you the research options so you can look into what vehicles you want to buy, and stuff along those lines. We're going for user experience here with the application over other websites. I don't know how many of you actually used a website to search for cars, or if you just walked into dealerships looking around. But there are some websites out there that don't have all the features that you would need. Some limit you based on the years that you can find vehicles. So, like, let's say you're looking for an older car. You're having a hard time finding vehicles, let's say, like before a certain year. So that's kind of what we were going for. Make sure you have all the options and all the bells and whistles in one spot. So like I was saying before with the demographic, so like these were some of the, the research questions and stuff that we're going through. So I interviewed my brother and sister because I'm down at home. That's who was around me. So in a sense, we're comparing the people I viewed, which was downstate New York, to the people that John interviewed that were upstate. You can tell that most people are more likely to get SUVs that are upstate, and other than downstate due to the conditions. So basically, if we were able to interview more people, you can see that the data would definitely show by demographic and age and what people were looking for that sort of thing. And then, we're looking at all these other things, when we were determining whether the users were completing the task properly, we decided to add a satisfaction questionnaire and keeping it very simple. Most of these questionnaires that I looked into while we were looking around were like multiple choice or putting different answers that were bubbles or something along those lines. But something that you can kind of fill in would be more beneficial for feedback. So someone has like a suggestion to add something, that would be better than, did you like it, yes or no? So keeping it more open-ended, I think, would be better. And then also for our interface, the error rate that we had was pretty low. It was kind of hard to mess up when the buttons are, they're labeled properly, they're easy to read, and stuff along those lines that will go in later on the other slides. You could switch over, John. Yeah. So, like I said, when we were testing through, we didn't notice many interface issues. Going through, relatively simple. It's easy to navigate through pages. The only thing that may make the process better would maybe to include less information on certain pages, or add like a drop-down list that's optional if the user decides to input more information. Usually when you're looking for vehicles, you don't need to know, or you don't need to input a whole bunch of things depending on if it's new or used. So for like used vehicles, like maybe there's like 3 or 4 filters that you want to use. So someone who might not care what color they have might not want that option, or so forth. So limiting the options for the, to find the used vehicle is important. So that's something we probably could have done a little bit better after testing it and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I would suggest for that. And then we'll go into the prototype. I'll pass that over to John.
So on these next couple slides, I just provided some examples. As you can see on the left was our paper prototype. It's not a mirror exact match, which is something during the design process you'll come to learn. You'll have an original idea, and what actually comes down to designing the interface, there's some things you'll have to adjust and whatnot just to make it more of a user-friendly experience. I think that these are large enough that you can see. So this first section here, the first is our home screen. It shows you the welcome. It's got our logo in the top. As you scroll down the page, you'll see a listing of our different services, which will start with your shop new, then used, then trade in, etc. Followed with the generic footer that will kind of have our contact information, location, email address, etc. So here is, yep, this one is all of our home screen. As we move on to when you get into your vehicle search, so what's going to show here is the option to shop new or used. Probably should have made this a little bit larger to be easier to see, but it's got all the brands that you can go, you can choose based off of make, model, year, etc. As you go further, we'll move on to our trade-in section, which is kind of similar. Here you have three different options to choose your trade-in based off what information you have at hand. You can use your VIN number for one option, make and model for one option, and the location and mileage. So here's kind of the interface. They're all kind of similar, and they all have the chat feature if you need to contact a representative or ask for any questions or need assistance. On our next one, this kind of goes into how our application will appraise the vehicle to get the value for your trade-in. You can starts off here, as you can see, based off color. So we put in a color scheme. They can choose their color, and kind of as they work through the trade-in section, they'll be able to go through was it color, condition, mileage, location, etc. And then we also added a little bit at the bottom so our users are aware of how it works. Wanted to make it kind of large so it's clear, for maybe our older demographics, so it's just right there in front of them. Transparency is very important because that's what we're trying to get away with. The old context of some like sleazy dealerships, etc. This makes a transparent experience for our user. We also have the price compare feature, and on this one you can pick up to 3 vehicles, which whoever is searching for these 3 vehicles must be looking for something real fancy. But anyways, this will kind of the options that when you're comparing them will have the MSRP, interest rate, your trade-in value to kind of offset to see how far off you are from obtaining it, and then a monthly payment, which would all populate as the user uses it. And then we also have the loan calculator, and this is pretty straightforward. It's just going to help our users calculate their loan all in one place, so they don't have to do the back and forth of getting the quote from the dealership, contacting the bank, etc. They can all do it in one place. As you can see, the initial screen will show all it'll have a vehicle image, it'll have all the vehicle summary, details, etc. And then it'll give them 3 loan options. And yeah, that is it for our presentation. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, go ahead.
Awesome. So I'm Jaron Daniels, and this is Owen. Hi. And we did the Gather Dine-In application. Now, Gather Dine-In is an application that allows people to reserve bookings at a restaurant directly from their mobile app. So on the app, they can see all the restaurants in their local area. They can click on them, go in, book into reservation, and they can actually, and the restaurant will know without having them to call the restaurant and make a reservation that way and wasting more the company's time and employee time. And this will allow a price solution for companies during COVID times who want to avoid any contact or as much contact as possible. Let's see. The intended users of the application are the restaurant customers as well as the restaurant owners and the workers. The application is meant to be accessible by all demographics and using a free-to-use model. And we've designed the prototype in Adobe XD for iPhone X, XS, and 11. Now, the research questions that we were mainly focused on were the effectiveness, the feasibility of our application. Was it efficient? Were the users able to understand the application? And will the users want to use the application instead of calling the restaurant? Now the Gather app, I'll give it to Owen.
So one of the things before I do the demonstration real quick is I want to highlight is there's nothing really out there that kind of does this. When we were gathering, like trying to come up with an app idea, I had seen that Google Maps, if you go and click on the business links, they have some of them, if the business enables it, a feature where you can reserve a table. But I've tried like 10 of them and none of them ever worked. And I always got an email response that said that your reservation request has been denied. So I thought that was really strange. So this app that we came up with is kind of like a blend of what I think the Google reservation could be, and also kind of a DoorDash Uber Eats interface. So this is the first screen that you're greeted with when you open up the application. If you're currently a user and you already have an account, you would just sign in with your email address and then a password, and then log in. Since we're all new users, we'd go and we'd click on signing up. Clicking on signing up brings you to the accounts, create an account screen where you would enter all the information and your credentials will be saved. Hitting create account will bring you to the home screen of the application. And this is where it's going to auto-generate pretty much restaurants near your location, and ones based off of previous choices and ones that you've already been to. On this screen, you can see images of the restaurant name, how far the restaurant is from your current location, as well as operating hours. The colored icons, the green person with the clock and the red and the orange, those act as business frequency. So the green represents that the restaurant isn't very busy at that moment in time, whereas the orange kind of represents moderate business frequency, and red means it's very busy. You also have the option to favorite restaurants, so you don't have to go and search for them. So the Brockport Diner and Blue Ridge Grill are both favorited. The star fills in when you click on that. And you can also share these restaurants to other to external applications. You also can apply a filter. So right now, this is just, the business frequency is kind of all over the place. If you tap on the top right where the filter is next to the location search bar, it'll bring you to the filter screen where you can filter by business frequency, popularity, distance, a price range, and then also a vegetarian option. So if you click on the business frequency, it'll highlight that, and then what you can do is hit apply, and then you can see that you have restaurants that are from least busy to most busy at the bottom. So this is the home screen. Moving on, I'm going to go to click on the search at the bottom. So this is the default search screen. It has a bunch of different auto-generated categories that the restaurants around you fall into. So you can click on one of those, or you can go on the top in the search restaurant bar, where you can find all your recent searches, or you can type into the search bar what you want to search for. So in this instance, I'm going to click on fast food, and this is a screen that would bring up the results for typing in fast food, and you have all these. For this purpose and for the testing purposes, it was made known that we only really were able to implement like one restaurant. So the one I'm working with is Jimmy Z's. I figured this is Brockport. It's nearby. It's well known. So I'm going to click on the Jimmy Z's individual page, and this is what that'll bring up. So it'll show the location, hours of operation, and then it'll do the menu, so you can kind of get an idea of, whether or not you really want to place a reservation at this place. And then on the top right corner, you have the favorites. You can click that, and that'll favorite that. And if you want to click it again, it'll go back. So, okay, so you decide that you want to gather at Jimmy Z's. Okay, so you're going to click at the bottom and click gather, and it'll bring you to the next page where you fill out the request form to gather at Jimmy Z's. You'll do the date and then the time, number of guests, and then any comments that you want to put in there. So after you're all set with putting in the information, you would go and click confirm gathering, and then that would automatically bring you to the gatherings page down here. And that would basically, so the current gatherings gets auto-generated. Normally, if it didn't have a gathering there, it would say no upcoming gatherings. And then you can also see below that past gatherings that you've already been to and the status of how that was. Okay, and then the next is going to be the account screen. So this is the general account screen. You have favorite, notification settings, help, COVID-19 info, and then about info. I'm going to click on edit account, which is underneath the account name. And that would bring you to this screen where you can edit your different account details. And then you can also save your changes. So I'm going to click that, and that brings you back to this screen. I'm next going to hit favorites, and that'll bring you to your favorite screen where you can have all of the restaurants that you favorited during your usage of the app. So I'm going to click back, and then I'm going to go press the help screen. And this auto generates your last gathering because we expect that potentially you might be trying to get help regarding that instance. If not, there's a frequently asked questions screen and various different topics underneath that. I'm going to click on, for this demonstration, contact us. So this is the contact us page. You type in the issue. You can click on what type of contact method you want to do, and then you click contact now, and that would bring you to a phone call, essentially. I'm going to hit back, and I'm going to hit back again. And then I'm going to hit the COVID-19 tab, and this is just a little bit on COVID-19 because this app was kind of created in the sense of COVID-19 where we have to account for knowing how many people are going to be going to a place because people don't like to wait in lines. And if we have like an organized manner where we can, kind of control the flow of people into different establishments, it helps a lot. So I'm going to hit the back button again. And then we have an about screen with about legal stuff and then liking Facebook and different social media platforms. And that is it for the demonstration.
All right, so for the testing, each participant were briefed on the goals of the developers as well as given an instructions document that they could refer back to if they ever had questions, but they didn't have to ask every single question again. They had to remember every single point. Participants were asked to fill out a consent form and asked to sign it before we continue with the study, so they agreed and understood what they were going to be tested for and what they were going to be publicized about. Each participant had to join in on a screen sharing app called Discord, and we would demo the application in front of them on the call, so they could ask us questions. They could tell us, hey, go to this feature, click on that, and we'll just show them a demonstration around 5 minutes or so. And after the test, these participants were completed satisfaction and the briefing questionnaire. I'll continue. We asked 10 individuals before testing to participate in the surveys. However, one didn't show up yesterday because of Mother's Day plans that they didn't expect coming up. We adopted a within group form of study where we had participants just go at the app and just work on the entire thing without having to demo a specific part of it. Now the goals were to inform participants on the risks and allow them to opt out given the risk without judgment. Each participants were given enough information to make accurate and valid judgments on the application. Have participants test out the layout of the Gather application fully, and we wanted to document the results of their testing and their feedback. We wanted to study information received from the participants to better improve our application. Now, this were the instructions page that we gave each participant. We had an overview of the goals in case we also debriefed them before the study by talking to them, but this is just a kind of a reminder. We could read that. We gave steps about what we were going to be doing in their studies. This was the consent form. We had the participant name, the developer's name, the title of it. We gave our explanation about what was going to happen, what information is being released, when it's not going to be released, and we had them sign that. This is a demographic questionnaire. We asked them how old they were Spanish Latino origin, ethnicity, their gender, the highest qualification of education, and their current employment status, which got cut off there, but we have full-time, part-time, student, unemployed, or other. This is the satisfaction questionnaire, which we gave them after the testing. These were the 5 main questions that we wanted to focus on. They had us give us a rating out of 10 on those 5 questions. And we also asked them, did we achieve our goal as a developer? And if no, why didn't we? We also had debriefing questions. This was more quantitative, where they would tell us exactly what they didn't like and what they wanted to see improved. This is the data logging sheet that we would fill out while they were doing their testing, so we can see the navigation paths, how many, or if there's any confusion with screens they were stuck on, or any comments they made during the testing. Now our participants, the age group were 4 of them were between age 21, 3 of them were 22 and 30, and 2 of them were 41 to 50. We had 7 people who identified as white and 2 as African Americans. So we had no Asian Americans, no Spanish Latinos, or Native Americans represented in our studies. The biggest discrepancy, we only had 8 males and 1 female in our studies, which is the biggest underrepresented group here. Education, we had 7 at least high school level education, with 2 having bachelors, and we had no undereducated participants who didn't graduate high school at all yet. Employment, we had 4 full-time workers, 4 students, and 1 unemployed persons. Our results, the main takeaways were the opinions were generally positive on the applications. The studies, the studies were mostly influenced by bias, we fully admit that. They personally knew the developers, so there's probably innate bias there. The highest ratings were ease of navigation going through the application, while the lowest one were the aesthetics of the application. Me nor Owen are graphic designers by trade, so we were okay with this, and we were actually happy with the result. Students typically gave the harshest ratings compared to everyone else. And no significant trends with any other demographic. In the bottom right corner, we had the averages of each rating from the students, or sorry, the participants. And the main data point questions, this is just a reminder. So when we say question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, this is the ones we were referring to. So we're referring to this one. So the blue one is question 1, this is question 2, question 3, question 4, and then these are all the participants. Participant 1, participant 2, participant 3. We didn't include the names on this just for anonymity, but in our full report we do have the names of the participants. This was the actual full data of everything that we took into account. These were the actual averages compared to each question and how they compare to each other. Now, the priorities that we want to focus on when we further into our development is that we want to link all the restaurants to the application. As Owen said, not all the restaurants or every tab were linked yet. We just wanted to demonstrate to each participant the important features that we wanted to actually develop and make sure that they were correct. We wanted to make the application more appealing, and by that we would probably hire graphic designers if we wanted to move forward. And main priority is to move on to the prototyping phase. Any questions?
I have a quick question. I know we're out of time. So first of all, you guys did a great job. I'm hungry seeing the But so was any consideration given to the choice of color or sizing of the icons and stuff like that?
Yes.
Or did you guys just randomly pick those?
So I did a little bit of research on what colors make people hungry. And
Maybe that's why.
surprisingly, it was red and yellows were the 2 biggest colors. I also looked up, because initially it was supposed to be like, I had it in the sense that it was like a family gathering, you want big families to go out and go to dinner. So I looked up some colors that meant like family and throwing like purples and greens at me, and I'm like, I'm gonna stick with the reds. So that's why a lot of red and yellows. Yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you.
The name of our project is Pet Aid. I'm Chesterton. That is Matthew. Purpose of our Pet Aid app is to connect pet owners with the veterinary clinics they have their pets registered in, and vice versa. We created this app in order to identify areas of improvement, such as the design for our previously found app called Vet Network. Concept of our app was to give the users an eye-friendly design that was closer to modern-day apps, having simple and smooth navigation. The colors we chose have good contrast and compatibility and wouldn't hurt users' eyes to look at for long periods of time.
Sure. From Permits Gathering, so we went out and we identified other apps that are on the market for veterinary care apps. There was only, we found about 7 of them. And as we were studying them, Dr. Owens had guided us to focus on a single one that needed improvement. We found one in particular called Vet Network that was a very older design. I think it was iOS 6 or something like that.
It was on an iPhone 4. So
Right. So it was
probably
very
iOS
ancient.
6, yeah.
We developed our low fidelity prototype and had some flow diagrams put together. And then we built a set of questions and tasks that we want to put our testees or participants through. And we generated an IRB form, which is the Institution Review Board, for approval for this, but unfortunately they haven't got back to us yet about approval just yet. One of the challenges we had during COVID, between the two of us, we can't exactly stand on the march and just draw people in to say, hey, test our app, test our app, test our app. So I used a combination of family that I was able to test in person. We did the Discord screen sharing. That was also very helpful. And also, one of the biggest things that Chester and one of his testees actually identified for us was to try Google Forms to generate this data, because it actually brings the results to us and allows us to make inferences from that data without needing to do a whole lot of extra work, at least to begin with.
Yep.
So if you want to pop up.
And then, yep. And then for the basis of our results, we were operating on the hypothesis an app with extensive functionality and customization will increase the user's likelihood of using the app over the network.
And so basically, we did give them, each person, the option to reject the form. If they accepted it, we had them sign in with Adobe Reader. We do not have the ability to test a vet network app because the veterinary apps are tied to veterinary clinics, and you need to have a registration code to get through it. So we took the available screenshots and let the users take a look at them for a couple minutes, and then we put them into the demo with our high fidelity prototype so that they can work through a list of tasks to get the feel of it. And
Yep. We designed it to be between 5 and 10 minutes. Some finished it faster than others. This is a bit skipping ahead, but most of them said it was a good length of time. It didn't take too long. And we sent them the Adobe XD link so all of them could use it on their phones instead of having to be in person. This is what the Event Network app looked like.
So if you look at this, it seems rather outdated. And that was what I intended to have a response. And as you'll see upcoming here, I was surprised with the results that we received.
Yeah. Okay. So our high fidelity, this is a screen grab. That's a video I made. For time constraints, I made it short. But just in case, I have the link to the full prototype because there's more to what you're going to see in this video. I don't know if I can.
Okay, and so we took the results that we got from our Google Forms, and we are distilling them still currently, actually. But I didn't notice any difference between male and female pet ownership. It seemed to be just about the same. So for the purpose of the testing, I'm for the most part assuming that it's relatively spread. we actually had a different situation than Jaren's team, in that we actually had 7 females participate and only 4 males. So it was a bit of an opposite problem. I found actually that the women were more accepting of some of the models than the men, which I kind of expected. But then there was a couple other spots where they were more willing to accept the competitors app too, which kind of skewed the result toward the middle, as you'll see. And then basically there was like a 4-phase process for everybody there. So we send out the IRB, then we do a demographic questionnaire, and then we let them do the app, and then we use there's a kind of a question and answer section we have for how they felt about it, maybe some improvements, and then finally we had a debriefing questionnaire. We asked them how they felt about our presentation. And one of the things I was happy to see is that nobody had a negative reaction to our presentations. So that was good. You've got
During our observation, I noted, Matthew noted, but I put in the presentation, he noticed his participants, none of them skipped the onboarding screens. It's in the full one, I didn't include it in the little demo, but I put some onboarding screens in there because realistic purposes. And I thought that since it was like a test, everyone would probably skip it, but no, nobody skipped it.
you wanted to remove them.
Yeah, they
Not a
actually
single person
clicked next all the way through it. A few participants specifically liked how they could call the clinic from directly in the app.
You have to show it.
Okay, I gotta show. Okay.
You have to show it.
None had an issue navigating through the entire app. Some had issues with certain font sizing being too small and the general info. When I go to the full prototype, you'll see, and I'll point out exactly what I'm talking about. And another suggested having a privacy aspect for viewing medication lists and medical chart screens. These are some of my graphs. Do you own a pet or animal? Out of 11 responses, most of our testers do own an animal, and it was evenly spread between cats and dogs, which is
Except for my sister, who answered other and then filled out every critter she has, almost. Yep.
Yep.
The
100%.
one there is the one about basically measuring if they felt the presentation was too long or just right. Everyone thought the duration was good. This upper right one here, we did have a minority of people, about 16% it looks like, or 18%, that had a feature they wanted. In one of the cases, I think the feedback was in relation to the survey and not the app, but I'm not 100% sure what he was targeting with that. But this is the crazy stuff that I'm talking about here. You see, it's a little hard to see on the slides, but petting is on the right side, okay? And so everything's skewed toward the right, which we were expecting. It would be an improvement over the other app. But when people were judging what they could do with the app, the features, it skewed toward the middle, like it was adequate, and slightly more than adequate, actually, which completely took me by surprise. And this one about visual, being visually appealing, again, ours is superior, but, there's still quite a bit more over here, and I don't know if it was because of folks just clicking through the surveys or not, but, a good portion of people either thought it was very good or almost very good, which was very surprising.
And just in case you probably can't read it, because I didn't expect it to look so small here. Blue is not at all, which is 1. Red is 2. Yellow is 3, which is somewhat, or is yes, and which is green. And purple is very much, or 5, which is the highest rating you can give it. Pet aids on this side, vet network is on this side.
Can I just ask you a quick clarifying question?
Sure.
So the chart on the bottom left, that's more in terms of the functionality, the features, and the chart on the bottom right is more in terms of visuals?
Yes.
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 So as you saw, ours had like at least one of the comments that I got back was they liked that there was like a multiple color contrast between the choices, as opposed to just all it's black down the screen. It was kind of hard to differentiate.
And last is how likely were they to recommend the app, which would be answering our hypothesis, and most of them said they would recommend Pet Aid with a high score of 5.
It's like those weird people over here with that.
I guess in terms of functionality, Vet Network
At least it's
got
adequate. I
what
mean,
it got.
it must be that the expectations for a veterinary care app is so low that barely passable
Yeah.
is enough.
Okay.
All right,
Now
so
we
if you
go
got a
back.
moment, can we bring up the app real quick?
Yeah, let's do that. I know we have Apple House coming up, but let's see if we do that.
Hopefully it'll let you.
Yep,
There
it
we
should.
go.
It should definitely. Now I just need to go. Can you see my mouse? No. It brought it up on there, but I don't see it down here.
Oh, you want to see it?
There it goes. Okay. So you launch it. This is the
Beautiful
onboarding screen. And this is the login screen. Log in. It's the home screen. I'm just gonna jump down to here. This is the specific clinic screen. And then it'll show which registered pets you have at that clinic. Called clinic. It'll give you an alert. Make sure that you want to call. You cancel or just go back. Call, and it'll take you to the call screen.
And so many oohs and ahs
go
with
back.
that. Send a message to.
You can send a message.
Yeah.
It'll take. Okay. So if I gotta point this out. If if you have the first pet selected and then you have the clinic selected, as I said in the video, this is all in relation to Max. So if you send message, it'll take Max's name and automatically input it in the pet field. You'll type your message, you send message, and it'll tell you it'll successfully sent. And then it'll go back to the home screen. And that's our presentation.
Now you guys really need to actually code it and get it working.
That's the other side of